this right here. Look at that sizzling right there. Doesn't that look nice? And over here we got a nice plate of different hummuses and some other dishes. Nice little flatbread over here. Some different meats. We brought over this right here, which is like a tea. All right, and hello from Saudi. And it's good to chat with you again. We are filming here indoors. We got a good air-conditioned area where we can film now. So it keeps the camera equipment from overheating. Outside, it continues to get hotter and hotter. There's no doubt about that, especially during the daytimes. What I've been doing is working nights mostly, which I like to do in the Middle East. And that definitely keeps things a little bit cooler. You can exercise outside, even though until 9 o'clock or even later sometimes it can be 90 degrees. It can stay 100 degrees till 9 o'clock at night sometimes. So that's just the lifestyle of living and working out here. But the main thing is I want to talk a little bit about the Middle East. I want to discuss working in the Middle East. We're going to talk a little bit about where jobs are, kinds of jobs that you can find in the Middle East, the cultures, and we'll talk a little about everything, the environment itself, and what you can expect. And I hope you get a lot out of this video, and we'll start here in a moment. After years of military contracting overseas, and I'm getting ready to retire, I thought I would pass on the information that I learned over years of working abroad to inspire others to reach out, check out the world, see the jobs that are overseas, and learn something about yourself. Okay, welcome back. So we're going to first talk about where people are working in the Middle East, all right? Middle East contracting, by the way, has been around now for several decades. And in places like Saudi Arabia, long before the Gulf Wars, Americans have been working over in places like Saudi. And the reason is because you have military bases there, Air Force bases there, where U.S. personnel are stationed. It's basically used as a place where cargo planes can come in and out of. You can station aircraft there, station equipment there to supply operations that are happening anywhere in the region. And so there's always been contractor work in Saudi for many decades. Primarily over the last 2 decades, there has been significant contract work that has been coming out of several nations in the Middle East, and I believe they will continue to grow. Right now, some of the best contracting work as far as pay goes is in places like Qatar, Kuwait, right, Iraq are some of your best paying of the contracting world in the Middle East. And you still have a lot of great contracting that's available in Saudi Arabia and in Bahrain. Okay, these places have definitely expanded. The one place that has contracted in just recently has been Afghanistan, as a lot of American forces have left Afghanistan. There are still 2 main operations happening in Afghanistan in the Kabul compound, which is to protect the embassies there, and then at the international airport in Afghanistan. So they have maintained a U.S. presence in those 2 locations, including with contractors. And again, something that we've talked about before is that contractors are the continuity. You don't leave and rotate as often as the military does. So when the military come in, they have working vehicles, they have infrastructure that's up and running, whether it be electrical, plumbing. Okay, they have food facilities, because your dining facilities on all the military bases out here are contractors that come from around the world. You have up and working networks, computer networks. Sometimes when new military units come out, they might bring specific equipment with them to put on those networks, but for the most part, their systems run on the military networks that are there and maintained by contractors. And that's primarily the type of work that I've done in the Middle East, is with upkeep of the military's computer networks. So looking at the reduction in jobs in Afghanistan, that has not changed the situations in places like Kuwait, where you have a significant amount of U.S. military presence and a lot of great contracting jobs. You have Iraq that has not seen a reduction, and who knows if it will. It might, but we'll see. And then you have Qatar, which is expanding because Qatar continues to increase its American purchase of equipment. And as that happens, contractors come in to maintain that equipment. The same thing is happening with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia continues to expand their lineup of American equipment of all kinds. And as that happens, more contractors come in to maintain that gear and keep up the networks that are utilized to run and maintain a lot of that equipment. And for those who have heard stories about Bahrain, Bahrain is wonderful. It's a wonderful place to work. It's a wonderful place to be stationed. Very westernized, great food, and a full lineup of jobs, as you have a large naval base there that's capable of taking vessels in, doing repair work and that, and resupply in Bahrain. It's a very important mission there that we maintain. Let's talk a little bit about the kinds of work that you'll find in the Middle East. First and foremost, think along the lines of maintaining the bases year-round. So if you are someone who has your commercial driver's license, if you are a journeyman as a plumber or an electrician, if you have other types of building maintenance capability, whether you're doing carpentry or HVAC work, even if you maintain things like solar power and generators, diesel generators to keep buildings running, you're going to find all that type of work. A lot of times the dining facilities are maintained by very large companies that come out of Eastern Europe or Asia, India, and for those reasons, it's not easy for Americans to get into the dining facility side of contracting on these bases. Not that it can't be done, and not that those companies maybe have subcontracts that they need people for. So you can still search for that if you have that sort of background. I will tell you that in that lineup of cooking overseas, if you are a chef and you're a trained chef, you will find overseas jobs in places like Guam. You'll find places like Diego Garcia. You will find onboard vessels of all kinds, auxiliary vessels. They need cooks on board, and these jobs pay very well. So you will definitely find work. Another thing to think about is if you are an engineer, because a lot of these bases are constantly being upgraded and maintained. They require roadway work, overhead electrical, underground electrical. A great deal of infrastructure upgrades occur. Security systems, camera systems, all of that gets upgraded. And so those types of jobs are definitely in demand in these Middle East contracts. Another thing to think about is the fact that everything runs on computer networks, everything. And so if you have an IT background and you would like to get into contracting, you're going to find a host of work available for you. The bases that I have worked at have had jobs in junior all the way to senior available in desktop support, in network administration, server administration, cybersecurity, including information assurance and firewall, keeping up firewalls, program managers and project managers in maintaining those IT commands on the bases and managing these IT teams. You're going to find a lot of good work. Cisco voice phone systems engineers is another one that you'll find. So definitely, and again, if you are certified in these fields but you don't have a lot of experience, I do encourage you to go for a junior position because there is good work and they need people. They'll train you when you get there. But for your senior positions that pay very well, you're going to want experience to get into those, and they do pay well, and there's a lot of great tax benefits overseas. But if you start out in a junior, after you've been there for a year, you start to build up that experience, and then you can command a higher pay. Let's talk a little bit about how your lifestyle is going to be working a Middle East contract. A lot of these positions, if you're working on base, you're going to have either a 3-person room with shared restroom facilities, showers, and a dining facility that will supply food for you. However, there are times when contractors live off base in an apartment type setup, and they will have a stipend in their pay to buy food. Where I'm at in Saudi Arabia right now, it's kind of a mix of the two, where we have villas, which are like a 3-person house with everyone having their own bedroom and their own bathroom and then a shared kitchen area. Well, an actual full-size kitchen. And you have a dining facility that's available on base. Some individuals do work in a capacity where they spend most of their time off base, in which case they may have a stipend for food added to their pay as well, depending upon what their schedule is. In Afghanistan, I had a small room. The room itself was the size of a queen-size bed. And you would walk into this small room. You had a very small bed. You had a small table. And you had enough room to stand up and put your clothing on. And that's pretty much it. On the table, there was a lamp. And so you had an outlet with 2 outlets. And it was like, there's your empty canvas, do what you can. So inside, people would sort of make it more like home if they could. But that's how much space I had. And I have to tell you, the fact that I had privacy in that room and that I had Wi-Fi in there, I was okay with it myself. So I did not have a problem with it. I'm a former Navy guy, so I'm used to living in tight quarters. I'm also used to living in a small space with 6, 8 other people. So the fact that I had that much space to myself, I was fine with it. You will find contracts where you might be living in a very comfortable environment. You may have maybe a condominium to yourself. You may have a sort of townhome to yourself. You may be on what's called a compound. A compound is just a walled area where contractors from around the world work. On that compound, it's a little more westernized, where the way that you can dress. There might be a pool facility, a gym facility, a restaurant or 2 restaurants, something like that, and a supermarket that has more westernized food. This is what you'll find on these compounds. So when you apply for work, that's something to think about. Also think about if you're starting out as a junior position, you're probably going to be in worse because you're gaining experience. As you start to gain experience, you go for better and better contracts. You might find yourself in a more luxury position. All right. A little bit about the cultures that you can expect. It depends on how much time you will be spending around civilian populations. In places like Iraq, in places like Afghanistan, you are generally on base as a contractor. You might leave base if you have a commercial driver's license or if you are working in a capacity such as working on cell towers, but you will have military security or at least highly armed private security going with you. in those capacities. But outside of that, someplace like Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, you will find yourself in a much safer environment. Maybe not from traffic, because traffic is insane in these places, but outside of the very real danger of getting into a traffic accident, as far as violent crime goes, you don't really find much. You are able to go out to restaurants and malls. You are able to travel to small towns and see them. You're sort of a novelty because you're from somewhere else. People want to say hello to you. There are sights to be seen. There are some beautiful mountains and caves and things like that you can visit in the Middle East, and do a little hiking, although extremely hot. Not exactly the best environment comfort-wise to do hiking, but in some areas you do have cooler environments. But that's going to be your mix of cultures that you're going to run into. Some environments you will be isolated away from the civilian population. In some contracts you won't, and you can interact with the population to the extent that you do, going out in town and going shopping and things along those lines, going to an actual coffee shop, a Starbucks or whatever. So that you can find out more about the culture online, and also talking to those that you're going to be going there and working with. Ask them a little about the culture. It also gives you an idea of what to bring as far as clothing-wise, what you should have. The last thing that I want to talk a little bit about is the pay. Working in the Middle East, you can find generally $80,000 to $90,000 junior positions in IT and engineering and mechanical, diesel mechanics, things along those lines. If you're coming out of the U.S. military with experience in things like intel analysis and that, you can probably double that. If you are looking at 2-3 years that you've already spent in the Middle East working on IT contracts, and you're now a senior network administrator, senior server administrator, you can triple that. Okay, that gives you an example of the pay ranges. As far as taxation, if you are in a state that if you're working overseas you don't have to pay state tax, that's fantastic. That saves you some taxes there. And you are able, as long as you stay out of the country, as long as you stay out of the United States a certain number of days. I actually did a tax video for the channel where you can get a lot of this good information. I refer you back to that tax video that breaks a lot of this down. But you are able to shelter 6 figures from your federal taxes as well, provided that you follow certain guidelines. And this is perfectly legal. So as far as culture and as far as pay goes, I would encourage you to go for Middle East jobs and positions. There's a wide range of positions available, and the locations are expanding. I think over the next so many years we'll be seeing Syrian positions, more Israeli positions. We could be seeing Lebanon positions opening up as we start to build our relationships with more countries. Yemeni positions could start opening up. We will see. We will see what happens, but I think we will start to see more positions start to open up. And I hope this has been helpful. If you are looking into a overseas contracting job focusing in the Middle East, I encourage you to go for it. Why not? Why not see a little bit of the world and expand your knowledge and your background a little bit more and get some great pay and tax benefits? And leave a comment if there's another area of the world that you'd like me to discuss or something else to bring up in these videos. And other than that, have yourself a very nice day.